If you're looking to sell your house, it is critical that you value the home correctly so that when you put it on the market, you're going to find the right buyer. So how do you come up with a valuation of your home in order to sell it? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So hey guys, welcome back. This is Sztanyo with TeamStanyo.com and Keller Williams Realty, where we are helping families find their way home. And in this video, we're talking about valuing your home. How do you set the valuation, the price for your house when you're going to list it on the market? And I'll give you a secret. There's a lot of people who think, oh, I just go on Zillow and look at the Zestimate. In fact, I've had people contact me who have said, oh, it's time to sell my house because my Zestimate is super high and I'm going to make a lot of money. And unfortunately, like, Zillow is not always super accurate. So generally when you're selling your house, this is one of the critical components of a marketing strategy that an agent should have, which is setting the price properly. And here's why. Because if you set your selling price too high and you go on the market and you're competing against these other similar homes on the market, but your price too high, your home is going to sit on the market and it's going to start accumulating those days on market, and it's going to look terrible, and people are going to start trying to underbid you, essentially, because they say, oh, you've been on the market 30, 40, 60 days or whatever, where everything else is selling in 15 days. So there must be something wrong with your home. It's so critical that you don't overprice your home when you put it on the market. At the same time, it's critical that you don't underprice it, right? You don't want to leave dollars on the table because you didn't set the price high enough. And so how do you come to this right price? Well, what we're talking about in this video is how an agent is actually going to come to you with what's called a CMA, which is a fancy acronym for Comparative Market Analysis, okay? Agents are trained to do this. We do this every single day where we're looking at a home and we're trying to decide and come with the right valuation of this home. Now, it may not be at the detail level of what an appraiser might do, where that's what they do full time, is come up with valuations of the home. But any good agent is going to know how to be really precise with their CMAs, so that they're giving their sellers an advantage, that when they go on the market, they're priced right. There's really three things on the market. There's your price, there's the condition of the home, and then there's how do you get that word out there. And we use different strategies at Team Sztanyo to do that. But let me go through quickly kind of how an agent will come to this valuation process. I see all the time, in fact, I work with Keller Williams, and Keller Williams specifically trains their agents with scripts on how to call for sale by owners who essentially have priced their home wrong. And it's remarkable. Now, this isn't a marketing strategy that I use, but there are some agents I know who are they make a fortune doing this. They're really good at their jobs, because the problem is home buyers oftentimes will overprice their homes. For sale by owners, generally, they're trying to save money on the commission by not using an agent. And they often inflate their home because they see, oh, well, that person down the street sold for this, and so I'm sure my home will sell for X. And they overprice it, and time again, what happens is they only get the wrong people calling them. And this might be another video, but essentially investors are calling them who are trying to get a deal. You've got looky-loos who are coming in, they just want to see the house, but they're not pre-approved, or they're not working with an agent. Or you get agents calling you all the time. If you've ever tried to sell your house for sale by owner, you probably got a list of Keller Williams agents calling you every single morning and say, hey, are you ready to list it yet? Let me run a CMA for you so that you know actually what this thing is worth. So what are the steps when we actually do a CMA? Well, number one, the first thing we're going to do when we get your address is we're going to kind of do a neighborhood assessment. We're going to kind of start bigger, and then we get more narrow and narrow until we actually come with the price. First thing we're going to look at is all the home sales in the neighborhood, and plus probably some of the actives and pendings, to give us an idea of what's the general sale price in this neighborhood. The next thing we might do is use a tool. We might look at Zillow. I really don't like Zillow. In terms of getting a proper CMA, it's always seems to be inflated or underinflated. Whatever comps they're using in their algorithm, they always seem to pull in the wrong ones. And so I like to look at it because it'll tell me what the sellers probably think their house is worth. But there's another tool I use called RPR, which is a realtor's property resource, which I have found to be much more accurate. Now, that's not a number that I will set in stone, but that report, and oftentimes I'll send it to my sellers because it gives really good analysis on comps in the neighborhood and a lot of great information. It's generally a lot more accurate than what I've seen Zillow's estimates to be. So we might use a tool like that to kind of, again, not necessarily come up with the valuation, but maybe be like a double check for what we're coming up with. So the next thing we might do is kind of do a preliminary CMA with the MLS. So now we're going to dive into either the Cincinnati MLS or the Northern Kentucky MLS and start doing a search. And we'll make a customized search. Maybe on another video I'll show you what that actually looks like. But in the search, we're going to start building the criteria. So that includes what the home has to offer. How many bedrooms, how many baths, how much square footage, how old is it, how big is the lot? And then what I often like to do is target geographically the actual neighborhood, or you'll do like a radius search within, let's say, a quarter mile, a half mile of other homes that have sold recently, either within the last 6 months, which is going to give your most accurate data of where the market is at with homes that are similar, or if there's not a lot of homes, or let's say it's not in a neighborhood where there been a lot of home sales, you might expand that to 12 months, which the data is a little less accurate the farther back you go, because it's not telling you the most recent data of what other comps are selling for that have similar features. So now you run that search, and let's say you have 5 or 6 or 7 or however many homes you have that have sold recently. You can start to get averages. You can start to get to really start to narrow down on what the valuation of this home might be. And then within that list, so let's say sometimes you might have up to 10, 15 homes. You want to start to even get more defined of, okay, which home is the most similar, which has a similar architecture, which has maybe the finished basement, or you're starting, which one has the closest amount of square footage, or the garage, or the yard. You're trying to find the best comps within that larger list and say, okay, this is probably our most accurate information. Along with that, I'm usually also looking at active and pending homes to say, okay, well, this one's also similar and it's pending at this price. Now, it's not a sale price, so it might have been negotiated lower or higher, but that also is another piece of the puzzle we put in to kind of coming up with this final number, our CMA number, and our valuation of what your home is. And then finally, the last thing we'll kind of do before suggesting or recommending a number is when we come to a listing appointment with you and get to learn about your house, we actually need to see your property. You can tell us on the phone about the condition of the home, how old the roof is, how old the furnace is, how old the windows are, what needs updating, does the kitchen need updating, but any good realtor is going to come to your house and actually walk through the house themselves. And if they've done their homework, which they should have, which I always do, is I will bring all that information I've previously researched with me. So I'll bring basically a comp packet. And that inside that comp packet, I'll have a 1-page comp landscape analysis of all the different comps that give me an idea of the pricing. And then I'll have a detail page of each one of those comps that I'm using. And then on top of that detail page, I'll often also print off or bring on my computer a multi-photo document of those past listings that have sold, so that we can really hone in and say, look, this one was updated. Look at you see the kitchen, you see the bath, you see the granite on the counters, you see the new custom tile in their bathroom, or you see the new flooring they put down. All of that is really important to compare. Or it might be, look, this one sold for $210 or whatever the price was, and they didn't update it. Look at these old cabinets. Look at this old dirty carpet, and they still sold. But all that information is valuable because you've got to compare the condition of those other comps to the seller's home, right? You need to say, okay, you haven't updated your kitchen, or you've got older, but you did do new flooring, or whatever the condition is, and you kind of make all these little minor calculations till you can really zero in for that final valuation price. So, and even at that point, what I'm doing, I think what a good realtor is doing is say, hey, I think we're within this range. Okay, based on all this info, I think, you could try to push it and maybe put it on this high end of the range, or, let's say the motivation is a little higher and you need to sell quicker. You say, hey, here's where the other actives are at. If you come in priced underneath it, we think we're going to get an offer within 7 days, 10 days, 14 days, something like that. That's the process of coming up with a valuation for your home. There's a lot to it. And, as an agent, we're looking, I'm looking at these numbers day in and day out. I'm looking at neighborhoods. I'm looking at solds. When you're trying to do this on your own, you can do it and you can get close-ish. But the question is, how is that close-ish number going to be the best for you in terms of selling the home quickly, for the least amount of hassle, and for the most amount of money? So you're not having additional carrying costs or all these additional costs that can be baked in if you don't have the pricing right. Like I said at the beginning of this video, it's critical that you get the valuation of your home right when you're listing to sell it. It's one of the most important components of marketing your home and getting it sold. So make sure you're reaching out to an agent who can do this work for you. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. We'll see you next time.